The Bobby Pickles podcast is brought to you by one sponsor and one sponsor only. That's the Bobby Pickles T-shirt company. Our brand's designs are based on people and places of history, politics, and pop culture. They're pseudo-intellectual party shirts, if you will. But we also make custom t-shirts as well. Whether for corporate team building or a family reunion, a cancer walk, whatever the scenario, we manufacture the tee from start to finish, from design of the graphic to screen printing of the textile. Call 866-970-9997 for a quote today, or check out bobbypickles.com for more information. Thanks for tuning in to episode 3. On today's podcast, I speak with Dr. Daniel Twogood, a chiropractor hailing from California, who has written a book entitled Chronic Pain Gone 90 Days. Dr. Twogood says in most cases, all chronic pain can be cured by subtracting certain foods from your diet, namely dairy, processed foods, gluten, MSG, etc. He has a pretty compelling argument, plus he's a hell of a lot more articulate than I am in this subject, so I'll let you hear it from the horse's mouth. Here's my interview with Dr. Daniel Twogood. What a great name. Time for the Bobby Pickles podcast.
Bobby Pickles podcast. He always says, that's me. With a look on his face, he'll talk about anything. Tattoos, t-shirts, politics, history, and hot sauce on everything. Bobby Pickles. Pop culture, documentaries, conspiracy theories, sarcasm, and beer. It's a conversation, start listening, cause we're all here. That's me.
Dr. Twogood, how are you? Thank you so much for being on my show. I really appreciate it in such short notice.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I have some good information. I hope your listeners appreciate it.
Okay, so let's just get into it. First of all, I would like for you to introduce yourself. You're Dr. Twogood. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Right. I'm Dr. Dan Twogood. I'm a chiropractor. I've been practicing for 30 years out here in California. I've written a book. My newest book is called Chronic Pain Gone 90 Days. The title is self-explanatory. It's about chronic pain and how to get rid of it, which kind of is an oxymoron to a lot of people because chronic pain by definition means it's not going away. Sort of like saying flat abs in 3 days. But the information in my book is true, and it's based on my 30 years in practice. It's my 4th book, and so I'm getting on shows like yours to share this information with everybody.
So when you say chronic pain, what exactly are you talking about?
Well, chronic pain is different than regular pain. Chronic pain is the kind that doesn't go away. We all know what pain is. We've all bonked our heads, stubbed our toes, cut ourselves, burned ourselves, whatever. You know, we know that we hurt for a reasonable period of time and then our body naturally heals and the pain goes away. That's not the experience of people who suffer with chronic pain. And there's lots of different disorders. They have different names like fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic back pain, migraines, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, psoriasis, eczema. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And according to the Huffington Post, 47% of all Americans suffer with some form of chronic pain. And that's the pain that feels exactly like regular pain, but it doesn't go away or it keeps coming back.
Dr. Twogood, let me stop you for a second. I just want to get some credentials on you, if I may. Are you a doctor of medicine or are you a PhD?
No, I'm a chiropractor.
You're a chiropractor? Okay.
Chiropractor.
And then so you practice out in California? That's right?
Right. I treat people with neck pain, back pain, headaches, all kinds of pain disorders. I've been doing it for a long time.
So is this how you got into this whole thing? How did you get into all this?
I learned the same thing that all practitioners learn in the beginning, and that's whether you're a chiropractor, an orthopedist, a surgeon, a neurologist, a acupuncturist. All of us have techniques that are well-founded in science, and they work really, really well for regular pain. But as you start practicing, you find out there's this whole group of people that are classified as chronic that do not respond to what we do.
Okay.
They tried surgery, medications, chiropractic care, etc., and they're just not getting better.
So they come in and then you just can't do anything for them, right?
Right. You know, you do all the things that work for regular pain and they don't respond. So what I used to do is rely on conventional medicine and say, well, if you have back pain, then if I can't help you, then you've got to go see a surgeon and they've got to do surgery. But if you look at the track record of surgery, that's not a good way to go either. So there's this whole group of people and it bothered me. It was like, what is going on with these people? And what really got me going was I would see grown men come in with severe back pain. They could barely walk. And I'd say, when did this start? They say, this morning. And I say, what did you do? And they said, nothing. I woke up and there it was. So you start thinking, well, what is this? Why do these people have pain and they didn't really do anything?
I've had that before. You know?
Right, and a lot of what I used to do is go back maybe 2 or 3 or 4 weeks with this patient and go, oh, remember when you moved that fridge with your brother-in-law? That's when you did it. But if you think about it logically, if you strain your back, it doesn't start hurting you 3 or 4 weeks down the road. If you twist an ankle, it doesn't hurt 3 or 4 weeks down the road. It comes on right away. So it didn't really make sense to me until I had a patient come in to see me back in 1985, and that's how I got started on this road. You know, after I talked to him and wrote my first book about 6 months later, about a year later, oh no, it was 6 years later, actually, I wrote that book, because he told me a story I didn't really believe.
Tell me the story.
The story is he came in, he was 53 years old, and he had a shoulder injury. He could barely move his arm. And so I examined him and decided that we were going to do several weeks of physical therapy and chiropractic adjustments to straighten out his arm and neck. But in the course of our initial conversation, I asked him, I said, you know, have you ever had any back problems or headaches, anything like that? He laughed and he said, I'm on disability. He said, I've had severe back pain and migraines for 20 years, 24 hours a day. And I said, well, you know, I'm a chiropractor. You only marked your shoulder. I can help you with everything else, too. And he said, you don't need to. I'm cured now. And that struck me right off the bat. It's like, well, wait a second. If you had back pain for 20 years and migraines for 20 years, that's chronic. It's not going to go away. He said, no, I had it for 20 years, and now I've been cured for 2 years. I said, wow, you have no more headaches or no more back pain? He goes, nope. I said, you must have had surgery. And he said, no surgery. And I said, are you taking medication? He goes, no medication. I said, well, then you must have gone to a chiropractor. He said, well, I went to lots of chiropractors. They couldn't help me. I said, okay, then, how did you get cured? And he told me the story. He went to all kinds of doctors, took all kinds of pills, had all kinds of therapy, never got better. Finally, several doctors along the way were telling him after their tests that he had alarmingly high cholesterol. His cholesterol was 285. So they told him that if he didn't take medication, he was going to die of a heart attack, which, by the way, is happening a lot these days and isn't true. But anyways, he didn't want to take medication.
What is a high? I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
You said he had a high blood pressure.
No, he had high cholesterol.
High cholesterol. What's high cholesterol? Like what's a number where you consider
he
it to
was
be
at
high?
285. The modern scale is under 200. You should have for total cholesterol. There's different numbers for HDL and LDL, but at the time he was just looking at total cholesterol. It's way too high. Should be under 200. So they told him that they had to medicate him, and he said, well, what about my back? And they said, well, we can't fix your back. So he refused to take the medication, and he told them, he said, you know, let me try a natural approach. I'm going to go work on my diet and get some exercise. They told him it couldn't be done, but he proved otherwise. He went and read up on cholesterol, changed his diet, went back in 3 months and got a checkup. His cholesterol had dropped 100 points. He had lost 20 points, 20 pounds. But what was weird, he told me, was that all of his pain was gone. And I said, you mean 20 years of back pain was less? He goes, no, totally gone. And I said, so do you think it was caused by your cholesterol? And he said, no. I said, do you think it was caused by your diet? And he said, yes. I said, really? I said, you think that you were eating something that was causing your pain? He goes, that's it. And I said, wow, I've never heard that before. And I didn't believe him. I thought he was kind of out there. And so I said, well, do you know what it was? And he said, yeah, it was milk. And I said, why do you think it's milk? Pardon me?
Milk?
Yeah, milk. Cow's milk. And I said, so why do you think it's milk? And he said, well, it's not only milk, it's everything made from milk. Cheese, yogurt, ice cream, the dairy foods. I said, why do you think that? And he said, well, when he read up on cholesterol, he found out that cholesterol in the diet is only in foods that come from animals. So that's eggs from chickens, meat from all the different animals, and dairy foods from cows. So he said, you know what? He said, if I don't eat cholesterol, it's got to go down. So that's what he did. He stopped eating all animal products. He became a vegetarian for 6 months. He got the desired result. He felt better. And he didn't know why his pain went away. But after 6 months, he decided that he was missing meat. So he started adding meat back into his diet. And he had no problems. He added eggs back into his diet. He had no problems. He said, but every time he tried to eat a dairy food, his back went out and he got a migraine. I thought he was out of his mind.
Doc,
and I told him so.
Are you preaching vegetarianism?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Actually, I'm not preaching anything. What I'm doing is I tell people, I said, listen, everything I say is based on observations I've made in practice. These aren't things I've made up. These aren't theories. These are observations. I've been out in practice and I've found the on-off switch for chronic pain. And it is specific substances in the diet. Now, in his case, it was milk and dairy foods. I didn't believe him, but I started checking it out, and I found out that, yes, it was true. Here's what I found out. When I had a desperate case, a young woman who had a severe back pain for 10 years and nobody was helping her and I wasn't helping her, she said, "Don't you know anything else to do for me?" And that guy popped into my head. And I said, "Well," I said, "let me ask you a weird question. Do you drink any milk?" And she said, "I drink a lot of milk. Why?" So I told her the story, and she says, "Okay, I'll try that. I'll stop drinking milk." And I said, "Well, it's not that easy. You got to cut out cheese and yogurt and ice cream, everything that has milk in it."
Wow, yeah, there's a lot of stuff with milk.
It's actually one of the pillars of the standard American diet, that
Yeah.
we've all been told that you have to have dairy foods. The problem with that, though, is that the standard American diet is mostly responsible for standard American health, which is not good.
No, it's not, right? Like, well, this gets us on to like the corn syrup, right? That's in all of our food. And,
right. I mean, if you go to any mall or shopping center and look at the people, and you'll tell we are not a healthy group of people, and it's basically because of our diet. And believe it or not, the standard American diet, which touts dairy foods as essential for health, that's absolutely not true. And if you think about it logically, cow's milk, by whoever created the planet, is the perfect nutrient for a baby cow. That's what it's designed for. Just like goat's milk is for goats, and dog's milk is for dogs, and whales for whales, etc. It's all different. And to have the notion that if you consume cow's milk, it's somehow healthy for a human, well, I've found out that it's absolutely not true. So this girl, who she was 21, she had back pain for 10 years. I told her about the milk. We took her off the dairy foods. It took 10 days. In 10 days, for the first time in 10 years, she had no more pain. I didn't really think it was the diet change. I really thought it was my work that helped her. But she was all better, so I released her. And 3 months later, she called me and came back in again in severe pain. And so I said, it's been 3 months. Why did you wait so long? And she said, "Oh, I've been great for 3 months until today." And so I said, well, I looked at my notes and I said, "Well, did you fall? Did you slip? Did you pick up anything heavy?" She goes, "No." And so I looked at my notes and said, "Oh, we had you off the dairy foods." She goes, "Yeah, I'm still off the dairy foods. No milk, no cheese, none of that." So I go, wow, well, it started on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock is when she felt the pain. So I said, "What'd you do on Friday?" And she said she worked as a waitress and she didn't have any slips or falls or anything like that. I said, "Well, what'd you do after work?" And she said, "Me and my friends went out and had pizza." And I paused and I said, "You mean pizza with cheese?" And she said, "Oh, you know what? I forgot." She said, "But that's the only cheese I've had." And so I didn't really think that that's what did it. But, I said, "Well, let's start over again. And let's let's get you off the dairy foods and fix you up." In 3 days, she was fine.
That's crazy. I love pizza so much. I make it myself.
So do most Americans. It's one of the standbys. But to further prove the point, I released her again, and 2 weeks later, she went out and had pizza with her friends. And the following day, she was in my office with severe back pain.
But doctor, what about okay? So I have family in Italy, right? My mother's side, we're friends with them over there and everything. Go, my cousins and everything. Everybody eats pizza. It's part of the normal diet, and Italy has it's the second best healthcare systems in the world, and
right.
And everybody seems to be pretty healthy. They're not like the Italian Americans that you see here who are fat up in the Northeast and stuff. People are, I find that people are like pretty fit, I'd say, and they have good health and they have long lives and stuff. What are they doing differently than us? They don't drink as much milk as us, or
well, there are several things they're doing different than us. Number one, not everybody has this sensitivity. There are plenty of people who consume milk and dairy foods and have absolutely no problems. Although the truth is, there are many people who consume dairy foods who don't know they're having problems. Like, for example, the classic symptoms in infants are recurrent ear infections. That's only one thing. That's milk allergy. Bedwetting in little kids. Guess what? Milk allergy. That blows people away, but that's what that sensitivity will do if you have a sensitivity to it. Not everybody does. I really have no idea how many people have the sensitivity, but anybody who has chronic pain, most likely they do. When we talk about Europe, there was an article that came out years ago. They noticed that French people and American people had very similar diets. However, there was more heart disease in our country than in their country. And so what did everybody say at the time? They said, "Oh, it's red wine. They're drinking a lot of red wine.
Yep.
Let's do that." And that's one way to look at it. But these other researchers who wrote a book about heart disease and diet said that the difference is We both the French and the Americans and Italians consume lots and lots of dairy foods. However, in our country, 95% of the dairy foods are homogenized, and in Europe, 95% of them are not homogenized.
What's that? Tell me the difference.
The difference is that, Americans want the milk to be all consistent. Homogeneous is what we call it. And so there's fat globules in milk that in raw milk will float to the top. And so you have a separation of the thick milk and the thinner milk on the bottom. And so, to solve that problem, if it's a problem, is they take the fat globules and force them through tiny screens that break them into small fat globules. And then these small fat globules float throughout the mixture of the milk, and it looks better. But those small fat globules are absorbable into the bloodstream through the intestine. And it's those fat globules that start to cause problems in the circulatory system and then in every other system that they go to. So that's one of the theories.
Wow. So we want it all to be consistent. So we put it all, through like the screen thing, but it just it's all up inside that milk. It's not like just at the top or anything like that. And we consume it, and it goes into our system easier. We absorb it easier. So you're saying that's one of. Is there another theory for why Europe seems to consume a lot and they're okay and we're not?
Those are a couple of them, but I'm sure if you went to Italy, there are people who suffer with chronic pain. And if you went to France and if you went to Spain and you went to my wife's country, which is Holland, and all those countries consume lots of dairy foods. It's totally unnatural to consume milk protein in the human body, but many people have no problem with it. In fact, probably most people don't have a problem with it. But if you go to Italy and you take all of the people who suffer with chronic pain and separate them out and go, okay, let's go over your diet, most likely you're going to find that most of those people have a sensitivity to the milk protein, and that's what's causing their problem. Just like in this country, you've heard of people who are sensitive to peanuts, right? People who have severe allergic reactions to peanuts. Well, most of us don't have that. Only some people do. So what I'm saying is, based on my observations, is you take this big group of people that have tried everything and they're not getting better, and let's go over here and let's do the one thing that conventional medicine never does. You see, if I was espousing a technique that you've been to doctors and they've told you about, oh, this is a better chiropractic care, this is a better surgery, this is a better drug, all of those people who suffer with chronic pain are going to go, no, I've tried all of that. So there has to be a different approach. And what I say is all these smart people that make up conventional medicine, brilliant doctors, great researchers, etc., they're all looking for the needle in the haystack. You know what the problem is? The needle isn't in the haystack. It's somewhere else. And so what we need to look at is what conventional medicine misses, and that is look at the diet. How does the diet relate to how you feel, how you look, etc., your health in general? And that's where the strong connection is, and that's why conventional medicine is ineffective in treating chronic pain. They never talk to you about your diet or your medication, what you're putting in your body. And that's where disease comes from.
Man, I totally agree with you. Let me just share something else. It's kind of personal, but it's about my brother. He had a car accident, a little while ago, and they prescribed him OxyContin. He was having such a hard time, and he was having chronic pain in his back, and he really messed himself up, and he had to go under the needle and everything like that. They prescribed him OxyContin. He had a really tough time with it. It's very physically addictive. It's like legal heroin.
Sure, it's basically heroin.
It's basically heroin. This is something that I feel I despise the fact that they give this out like candy to everybody, and the way that our healthcare system is, it seems to just be set up where we're just on this. Well, the whole system, the whole American system, where we eat this crap food, processed food, and then that destroys us, and then we go into the hospital, and then they just prescribe us some kind of drugs, and it's just money. It's just all about money. And
sure, it's all about money. But here's where that mentality comes from, Bobby, and that is that in this country, because it's a capitalist system, and I'm not knocking the capitalist system.
No, I'm not either. I'm not either at all. But
it's one of the best systems. But the problem is if you want to sell a notion or a product, you're doing it for money. You want to do it for money. My approach, there is absolutely nothing to sell, although I want people to buy my book, of course. However, the mentality in this country is that if something is wrong with you, your skin, your health, your energy, your sexual potency, whatever it is, there's got to be some product you could purchase and put inside your body, and that's going to cure your ills. And that's what medication is about. That's what the supplement industry is about. But I'll tell you a general concept about this country. Disease in this country, this rich American country that we live in, disease in this country is not due to the lack of anything. It's due to excess. And so if disease is due to excess, why would you want to add anything else to the system? So my whole approach is subtract. For example, if you're a lung doctor and you treat people who have respiratory disorders, and some guy walks in and says, "Hey, doc, I got this cough and I can't shake the cough. Do you have a cough suppressant for it?" And he looks and sees a pack of Camels in his pocket. And he goes, "Well, I do have some cough suppressants, but you know what? If you stop smoking, you will stop coughing. You're coughing for a reason. You're ill for a reason, and you got to stop that reason." And so the approach, and my approach, is subtraction, not addition. You've got to find out what it is you're doing to yourself that's contributing to your problems, because what I firmly believe is the human body is a really well-built organism. My God, you can throw a human off a building, and they'll break every bone in their body, and within a year or two they're healed and they're walking and moving around. So we're really well built. But where our biggest weakness is chemically. While a lot of people assume that physical pains like joint pain, back pain, that kind of thing are physical due to bending, lifting, twisting, most of them, believe it or not, are as much chemical as they are physical, and that's where we need to focus.
So what would you suggest people do? Cut out the milk? What else?
Well, the book I wrote is called Chronic Pain Gone 90 Days. It's very easy to read. Within 10 minutes of reading the book, probably even less, you'll know exactly what you have to do. It's called a 10-step program, and there are 10 things to do. Actually, there are 3 things to do proactively, and there are 7 things not to do. Like I said, subtraction is the name of the game.
Do you want to give us a rundown, or is that...
I'll give you a rundown right now.
Okay.
Number 1, in fact, I listed, if you ever buy processed foods, they all have a label on them because the FDA has made manufacturers fess up to what they're putting in your food. But there's ways around it, and believe me, they're doing that. But when you read a list of ingredients, and you'll see all those names after the word ingredients, the very first one is what's mostly in that food. And then the next one is second place, third place, etc. When you get down to the bottom, there's only a little bit of what's at the bottom. So that's how they're listed.
I didn't really realize that that's how they list it.
Yeah, that's how they list it. And so a lot of them, you'll see high fructose corn syrup is number 1.
Really?
Or sugar is number 1. That means there's a crap load of it in that food, or that's what mostly is in there. But anyways, the 10 steps are easy to, well, I say easy. They take some discipline. But number 1 is eliminating milk and dairy foods. It took me years to figure it out, but there's a protein in milk and dairy foods called casein, C-A-S-E-I-N, and it's the cause of it's a pro-inflammatory substance. People who have pain issues, they'll take anti-inflammatories, right? So they'll take ibuprofen or Motrin or Aleve or Advil or Tylenol or Excedrin, one of those anti-inflammatories. What those pills do is lower the overall level of inflammation in your body. They don't go right to the site of your pain like your back and numb it. They lower the hotness of your body. And when the hotness or the inflammation goes down, your pain is less. So casein is a pro-inflammatory substance. And so when you consume it, it's like putting gasoline on a fire if you have a sensitivity to it, which 50 to 75% of all people who suffer with chronic pain, that's what's doing it. That's a grandiose claim, but I make that because that's my observation in practice. So I don't want people to be chemists and have to know about casein, but the reason I say casein is because caseinate is a substance that's a form of the milk protein that's in many non-dairy foods, like coffee creamers, like Cool Whip, like Ensure. These products, a lot of people will say, well, I can eat that because it says right there it's non-dairy. But non-dairy products like coffee creamers contain caseinate, and that's the substance which causes the reaction.
So it's more than just dairy. It's dairy-like products as well?
Right. Well, and it's less. I mean, for example, there's 3 proteins. I don't want to get too technical, but there's 3 proteins in milk and dairy foods, and one of them is casein. That's the one that's pro-inflammatory. There's 2 other proteins called lactoalbumin and lactoglobulin. Those 2 make up a product that's called whey, W-H-E-Y. And you'll see a lot
That's
of
whey
food
protein. So when I go to the gym and then I get a shake afterwards, that's what's inside of there.
it's a whey protein shake. So what they've done, see, this information has been out there for a while.
So I should stay away from the whey protein shakes now?
No, the whey is okay.
Okay.
The whey is eliminating the casein. So there's 3 proteins. It's the casein that's causing the reaction. Whey does not have any casein in it. But you do have to check out your shake. Some of those protein shakes, they will put sodium caseinate in them.
What do you think about hemp protein?
That's another protein that's okay. I'm not saying that protein is bad. Protein is an essential part of a healthy diet, although in this country we overdo the protein. I don't think there's any healthy protein shakes on the market. In fact, I say that in my book. But this is what I'm talking about for eliminating chronic pain is a specific protein, not all protein, but a specific one, and it is casein, which is not included in whey. So you can have a whey shake, although there are other substances in the whey protein shakes that I'm going to talk about here in a minute that you'll see on the label that are also problems. So the number one thing that causes most chronic pain, 50 to 75% of the cases, is casein, which is in dairy foods, and it's in the form of caseinate in non-dairy foods. The big bad news for people who suffer with chronic pain that I'm going to share right now is that anybody who reacts to milk protein also reacts to chocolate, only their reaction is worse. All forms of chocolate, dark chocolate, light chocolate, white chocolate, any form of chocolate is the most powerful cause of pain. So there's, and that always bums people out because it tastes really good. So there's the first main 3 substances, and that's casein in dairy foods, caseinate in non-dairy foods, and chocolate.
Okay.
The next substance on the market is a neurotoxin. It's called monosodium glutamate. You may have heard of it, called MSG. It's infamous for its use in Chinese food, but it's also in top ramen, cup of soup, cup of noodle, TV dinners, canned soup. Most restaurants use it, especially in their soups and in their sauces and in their breadings. It's a food additive that is a flavor enhancer, and it makes food taste better by stimulating the taste buds.
Is it in a lot of like canned soups?
Yes, it's in all canned soups.
All canned soups is MSG? I had no idea.
No, and that's what I enlighten people about in the book, is that they hide it under other names like hydrolyzed protein, like natural flavors, flavorings, yeast extract, autolyzed yeast, and one that I'm going to bring you around to the protein shake called protein isolate. Almost all protein shakes have a substance called protein isolate, and it contains biologically active glutamate, which is glutamic acid, which is MSG. It's a nerve toxin and can cause things like numbness and tingling in the arms and legs, muscle cramps, aches and pains, headaches, mood changes, all kinds of things. So MSG is widely used. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book about it in 1997 called MSG is Everywhere, because MSG is everywhere. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one to avoid unless what I call the chapter here in the book is just stay away from processed foods. If it has a label on it, don't get it.
Jesus, that's so hard to do.
Yeah, it is hard to do, but it depends on what your symptoms are. See, the book is called Chronic Pain Gone 90 Days, and the 90 days is significant because the 10 steps that I'm suggesting are the blanket approach. Most likely, most people are having their fibromyalgia issues or their rheumatoid arthritis or chronic back pain caused by only one thing, like the milk protein and chocolate. Those are the most common. Other people, it's going to be MSG. Other people, a new trend out, you may have heard of it, is gluten. Gluten is the main protein in wheat, and that can cause problems in people who are sensitive to it, but not nearly as much as the dairy protein.
Yeah, it's definitely a trend I hear up here in New York all the time. People always talking about that.
It's real trendy, and a lot of people who, if they want to be healthy by avoiding gluten, that can possibly help.
Can you take me through gluten? I'm a little ignorant to it. I really don't know what it is whatsoever.
Yeah, and most people don't either. It's just trendy to say. But gluten is the main protein found in wheat and wheat flour, so that means bread, pasta, cakes, cookies, crackers.
Okay, now that's it, Doc. I'm gonna get on a plane, come over to California, and kill you.
Punch me out.
What are you talking about? So I can't have any pizza. I can't have milk. I can't eat chocolate.
No, that's what
no
a lot
MSG.
of people say to
This
me.
okay? You're right. Blanket approach. That's just if you're having.
I say absolutely. They said, so you're telling me I can't drink milk? And I said, no, I'm not telling you that. I'm describing my observations in practice, which means a lot of people with chronic pain have gotten better under my care because they eliminated these things. And so if you're interested, if you have, like, you look like a young, healthy guy. I doubt if you have any health issues, right?
No, I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, whatever you're doing, keep it up. But, for the people who are banging their heads against the wall because, you know what, they've been to the doctor, they've tried pills, they've tried surgery, they've tried all this stuff, they're not getting better. Here's the approach. And like I was about to say, the book is called 90 Days, Chronic Pain Gone 90 Days, because this program, what you do is you do it for 90 days, kind of like a P90X. The reason I picked 90 days is usually you'll see changes around 30 days. You'll go, oh, this is working. But 90 days will give you good healing. And I figure if people can buck up for P90X, they can certainly, stay away from milk and dairy foods for 90 days and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, so along also in the gluten, you were saying pasta, right? What else?
Pasta, crackers, cakes, cookies. They use it as an additive in a lot of food. And although it's trendy now, it's not nearly as common in causing chronic pain as the dairy protein is. So if people were to cut out gluten and not change their dairy or chocolate intake, they probably wouldn't see any change in their condition. It's not, like I said, nearly as common. But I'll tell you one thing. I experiment with my own diet, and I decided a few months back that I'm going to go off of gluten for a while and see if I see any changes. I didn't see any changes in how I felt, although I don't really have any health issues, don't have any pain. But I'll tell you what, in 14 days, I lost 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you cut out all bread, and Russell Crowe, the actor, he lost 80 pounds last year, and they asked him how he did it. What did he say? No gluten. So like I said, while it's trendy, it's not nearly as common in causing pain as the ones I've already mentioned. And believe it or not, when we get down to gluten, that's about all of the substances that cause chronic pain, except we're leaving out one big group, and that is medication. You got to know that all medication is poison. If you listen to if you watch primetime TV at night, most of the commercials are for drugs.
I agree with you 100%, man. I have an uncle who refuses. He's awesome, but if he goes under the knife or anything at all, if he has any major surgery, he's nuts. They try to give it to him. He says, "Take it. I'll deal with the pain. I don't care." He won't put anything in his body whatsoever. I respect that so much.
But for a lot of people, there's got to be an alternative. When somebody is in a lot of pain, like your friend who was in an accident, and they say, "Well, I don't want to take OxyContin. What else is there?"
Well, what else? Yeah, what else is there? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is where the conventional medics only have pills to add. They don't looking at the diet.
So so you have pain though to deal with right there, and it's a real time thing. What do you suggest somebody does?
Well, you can palliatively take something for the pain. Like if the anti-inflammatories work for you for a short period of time, then that's what you do. If you sprain your ankle and it hurts like the devil, and you take ibuprofen for 2 weeks, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have a chronic condition that months and years later is still bothering you, taking an anti-inflammatory every day is not going to help you. As a matter of fact, it's going to eventually make you worse. Because while it lowers the level of inflammation in the body, when the pill wears off, the inflammation bounces back at a higher level. So if you keep taking it over a long period of time, you can see how that's going to stair-step up your level of pain, and eventually you're going to take a lot of pills just to feel lousy.
So do you think if you took OxyContin in a short period of time and you just got off of it and you're really religious about it or whatever, then that's okay? It's an okay tool to use?
You'd have to have some severe kind of pain to have your first choice be heroin. There's lots of other stuff on the market. There's aspirin to start with, and if you can tolerate life, take an aspirin for a few weeks or an ibuprofen or a Motrin or maybe get into Vicodin, then, and then take it for a reasonable period of time until you stop. But see, most medication today is prescribed for how long? Forever. If you go to the doctor and you're uptight, and he takes your blood pressure and it's high, he's going to prescribe a blood pressure medication. And 90% of the time, when you ask a doctor, "Well, doc, how long do I take this?" They give you that blank stare and say, "What do you mean? You take it forever. You have high blood pressure. It's never going to go away. You mean I can't change my diet or get exercise?" No, you have to take these pills. Same thing with cholesterol or diabetes. They're not looking for the cure. They're looking to medicate you and make your life halfway.
What are your thoughts on the legalization of marijuana?
That's fine. I think nobody's going to rob a bank after they smoke a joint. So,
Yeah.
if people want to, if you're packing the jails with people who are smoking doobies, I think you're wasting your time. Time is better spent, looking for people who are taking methamphetamine and ruining relationships and killing people. So, yeah, pot. I don't think it's a problem.
And honestly, you're from California, so they've already legalized the medical use there, and in Colorado and Washington they've legalized the recreational use. But I'm from Florida, and Florida is the governor there is so horrible. He's the worst governor we've ever had down there, and he's coming up with his own. I don't know exactly where this falls, but I guess basically if you're on any kind of food stamps or any kind of assistance whatsoever, they are going to start drug testing you to see if you come up dirty for marijuana, then you won't get your assistance or anything like that. Which I think is nuts, because Florida's like 85% of the prescriptions written for OxyContin come from the state of Florida. So they have legal.
It's the OxyContin capital of the world.
Yeah, they have legal heroin, and then they make a huge deal about marijuana, and it's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's the whole drug war is misguided. Like I said, where is the line drawn between prescription and recreational drugs? I'll tell you where it's drawn. It's drawn. The legal drugs are the ones who have the strongest lobbyists, who can go to Washington and say, "Hey, Senator, this pill is even though it's a hallucinogen or it's a depressor or whatever it is, it's good for this particular disorder. And by the way, if you keep it on the market, we're going to pay for your reelection campaign." So That's our hope. There's not a big strong lobbyist for pot, those kind of things. So
yeah, I gotcha that. Yeah, but I feel like now they are going to a lot of like-minded people are going to be getting into power and getting into politics, and this is all going to shift very fast because we're on to them. We know the truth, and it's guys like you who are talking about it. I mean, with the diet, that's one component of all this. That the fact that we have this pyramid, and milk and dairy and gluten, pasta and, all the MSG, all these things are just fed to us, processed stuff. And a diet of that for your entire life, you're going to come out with some chronic pain.
Right. As you get older, you get more jaded and you find out that we're all being misled. And, just because it's not common knowledge doesn't mean it's not true.
Let me ask you a question. Can cancer patients benefit from your regimen too, you think?
Yes, anybody can. In fact, you've heard of people who are cured of cancer, and everybody thinks, they laugh at that.
Do you kind of like fall into that same thing? A lot of people. I love to talk to somebody about that who cures cancer patients through just diet and stuff.
Right, it definitely happens. The cases that fail in that are because either the right diet change wasn't made, or the disease has progressed beyond the point of no return. But all that I'm talking about here is lowering the level of inflammation in your body. And your body has an amazing healing mechanism that works really, really well. But if it's interrupted by drugs or by food additives or these specific foods that are pro-inflammatory, that's where the chronic ongoing inflammation comes from.
Are any other doctors talking about this, talking about diet and stuff? Because I feel like I don't really hear.
It's been, in fact, believe it or not, there was a book written in 1943 called Food Allergies. It was written by Herbert Rinkel and Theron Randolph. And so the information has been out there for a good long while, but, conventional medicine is resistant to it. Like anything else that changes, we have to wait for the old guys who are never going to believe this to die off and retire, or retire and die off, whatever way it goes. And then young people who are more progressive, who will consider alternative approaches, will come along, and it'll become common knowledge. So, who'd have thought 20 years ago that it would be that you would walk into a coffee shop and pay $5 for a cup of coffee? Well, along came Starbucks. And now it's cool to do that, right? Mm-hmm. It's really stylish to go in, open up your iPad and sit and have a $5 cup of coffee in a Starbucks because it's cool. Once diet changes become cool, like when Lindsay Lohan and George Clooney are talking about it, then
it seems like it is starting to kind of get cool with the gluten thing. You're talking about how it's trendy. It's trendy, right? So
right, it is starting to happen. The trouble with trends, a lot of them, they die out.
Right.
Oh, they'll say, 5 years from now, you say, remember the gluten thing? And you'll go, no, what was that? And it faded. So
I gotta tell you, man, you were asking me before. I look like a pretty fit guy or whatever, but I tell you, my girlfriend is a complete hippie, and I'm not putting you into that class of person or anything like that. But I'm just saying she is a complete hippie, and she makes me eat like kale all the time, kale shakes in the morning, and I don't really consume milk. I consume like silk and stuff. She gets all that kind of stuff, like coconut milk and all this other crazy stuff.
well, good for her. She's taking you down the right road.
Yeah.
Plant-based milks are good. Cow's milk is absolutely not good. And
because like why? It's really so the cow's milk. It's not. She says this to me, so I'm just gonna paraphrase what she says. She says that because when you're a baby, your mother gives you milk. It's milk from a human being into you. Like you said before, cows milk. That's good for a baby cow. And then we're a different species completely, and we consume milk like we're little babies for our whole lives.
Right, and no other mammal does.
Yeah.
Every other mammal stops.
And
so
then
we don't even continue with human milk. We continue with cow's milk and cow's milk products.
Can you tell me, have you seen any studies about like India or anything like that? Because I know that like the Hindus do not consume milk, right? Or any.
Well, everybody, America has no indigenous diet because we're the big giant melting pot. But other peoples around the globe have an indigenous diet that they've consumed for many, many years, many thousands of years, and they've adapted to them. There was a dentist named Dr. Weston Price who wrote a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, and he went around the world and studied primitive tribes. And from a dentist point of view, he first started because he saw a tribe in Africa that he examined their teeth. They never brush their teeth, they never floss, but they have no cavities, they have no gaps in their teeth, they have perfectly healthy teeth. So he wondered, how did that happen? Well, it was their diet. He also found out that he could mess up their diet, their teeth, by bringing in westernized foods like dairy foods, a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, a lot of wheat, and all of a sudden these indigenous people started having dental decay problems. In this country, we haven't adapted to anything, and we're certainly not going to adapt to processed foods. So we're going the wrong direction, and we need to get back to pure foods.
I mean, what if we do adapt to processed foods? It's everything's evolving. We're evolving, human beings and whatnot. So like our diets have evolved throughout the ages since we were cavemen and stuff. So who's to say that doesn't happen? It'll probably just we'll evolve in a bad way.
It will happen most likely, but in the process, those of us who are in the middle are going to be suffering from cancers and heart disease and different things until the adaptation takes place generations from now. So if you want a life right now with no pain and no cancer and no disease, you really have to not rely on processed foods, but go back the other direction and go to pure foods, pure whole
so
natural
you were
foods.
saying there are 3 things not to eat, but then there's 7 things that you want us to do, right?
No, the other way around. There's
the other way.
See, that's why the program is easy. I tell people, I say, if you do nothing at all, that'll be the best treatment for eliminating chronic pain, but you have to eat. So one of the chapters on things to do is what do I eat? And it's basically fruits, vegetables, rice, beans, pure meats. Meat is okay. You can eat eggs.
So meat's okay?
Meat's okay, as long as it's pure meat. Now, you don't want to eat deli meat.
So you're saying like grass-fed beef and stuff like that, right?
You can go that way if you want. I'm not that much of a purist, actually, because basically, and most people aren't. Here at one end of the spectrum, you could eat only organic foods and be a vegan. At the other end of the spectrum, you can drink a fifth of vodka every day, smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and eat nothing but fast food. Everybody, wants to choose somewhere in between those 2 extremes. If you're willing to be a hippie, so to say, and eat only organic foods, that's really, really good. But in my opinion, it's not really necessary to be a vegetarian or a vegan, because we do have the teeth and the intestines and all of the organs necessary to process meats.
Right, we're omnivores. We eat both.
Yeah, we eat both. And so, but the problem in the standard American diet is processed meats, and that's your deli meats, salami, bologna, pastrami, all of those meats that have been taken apart, chemicalized, and put back together again.
Man, I used to work in a deli, and I used to slice that meat, and I ate so much of it. I consumed so much of it, and it tastes so good.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that tastes so good, so bad for you, it seems, you know?
Yeah.
And you're saying supplements are bad for you too?
They can be. There are certain additives in supplements that can cause problems. I'm not saying
So if I take
supplements in
fish
general.
oil, fish oil's
Pardon me?
bad?
No, that's a natural substance. The problem is, again, the supplement industry all goes on the notion that our fruits and vegetables aren't what they used to be because of soil depletion and the processing of foods, etc. And so you need to get more vitamins than a tomato can supply you. Um, I I don't buy that. I learned a long time ago in school, and you probably learned it too, that in physics that matter is neither created nor destroyed. So if these nutrients have been taken out of the soil, where did they go? They went into the foods and they go back into the soil again. So, certainly you can over farm land, but farmers have gotten smart and they know how to avoid that. So the whole notion that you have to take supplements because our food is deficient, I don't really buy it. And a lot of people who say that, they're taking supplements and eating cheeseburgers. It's like they're beating their heads against the wall.
So that's why you say stay away from the supplements. It's more about because that same thing with just trying to like fix everything and just trying to add. You're saying don't add, subtract and
Correct.
stuff. So it's more about get your diet squared away. That's the real
right.
That's the
Because
real issue.
if you take a pill for vitamin C that's 500 milligrams of vitamin C, the actual entity that is vitamin C, 500 milligrams of it, would be invisible. You couldn't see it. But here's this pill you're putting in your mouth. What is all that stuff? Again, supplements are for people who don't want to eat a healthy diet. If you don't want to eat a healthy diet, then take supplements. But if you're eating a healthy diet, my honest opinion is you don't need supplements. What they do is they complicate things because there are additives like soy and like gluten, and believe it or not, there are some vitamins that have hydrolyzed protein, which is MSG, and then the protein shakes, like I say, usually have protein isolate, which is MSG, and a lot of other stuff. I mean, look at the label on any protein shake, and there's a ton of stuff in there, and most of it doesn't grow on a tree. So the whole notion that you can take food apart and find out the very best parts of it and mass produce that and sell it for too much money, and that's going to make you healthy, I don't buy it. If you're drinking a 6-pack a day and you're wondering what you can take, to fix your brain, that's backwards thinking. If you're eating a pure natural diet and you're still having problems, then you can start looking into supplements. But like I said, my program is a 90-day program where you do these things, avoid these things for 90 days. Then when the 90 days is up, you can start adding things back and find out what things bother you and what things don't.
All right, so where can people get your book and then and do this if they're having chronic pain and they want to fix themselves
Sure.
a good wholesome way? What
Like
should
I said,
they do? Where
the
should
book
they go?
is the best I've written. It's my 4th one. It's easy to read. I believe in getting to the point. The name of the book is called Chronic Pain Gone 90 Days. It's available at Amazon.com. You can get it at Barnes & Noble online. You can go to my webpage, which is www.chronicpaingone90days.com, and you can get the book there or see other information there. The book is available. I think everybody ought to get a copy, and if you don't have chronic problems, I'm sure you know somebody who does, and I think this is their best shot at getting relief.
And that's Dr. Daniel Twogood, Twogood, right?
Right.
Let me ask you one more question before I let you go, sir. Just some random thing. I love hot sauce, and I eat it on everything. I mean, I'm serious. Is that bad?
Most hot sauces are good. If you look at them, they only have natural substances in them. They have like chili peppers and salt and different things like that.
It doesn't have MSG inside of it, like
some of them do. Some of them do, and so you want to look for those names that they'll hide them under, like hydrolyzed protein, natural flavorings, yeast extract, autolyzed yeast. Sometimes they'll just go out and say monosodium glutamate. So but
do you know off the top of your brain if Tabasco has any of those ingredients?
Most hot sauces don't.
Okay.
Most hot sauces don't. But other sauces like teriyaki sauce, that has it. Many barbecue sauces, especially the very best ones, have MSG. So MSG is a flavor enhancer. So, the hot sauce is plenty hot if you put in peppers in there, and most of them do not have MSG.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to look out for those words. Tell me one more time, what is it? What do they disguise it as? It's what?
Anything hydrolyzed protein.
Hydrolyzed protein.
yeast extract,
Okay.
autolyzed yeast, natural flavors.
Natural
flavoring.
flavors. So even if it just says natural flavors, that's MSG right there.
Not necessarily. That's a glitch in the labeling laws. They can put it in there and not tell you. So many times it has it in there. If it's an entree thing like a meat or a sauce or a vegetable, then most likely MSG is in there. If you see natural flavors in a protein shake or a sweet thing, that's not MSG. But again, that's a glitch in the labeling laws. You don't know if it's there or not.
Okay.
And the most important one that you can check on your protein shake, Bobby, is protein isolate. ISOLATE.
Protein isolate. That's what's it's in the protein. But see, I've been consuming a lot more hemp protein, and I heard that's a good route to go.
Right. Again, but do you want to look and see whether no matter what the source of the protein is, most protein shakes do have protein isolate in them, and many of them, you want to remember the caseinate, CASEINATE, sodium caseinate. They'll slip that in there too, and those are pro-inflammatory substances.
So I'm gonna have to go back and listen to all this again and write all of this down, and then try to stay clear of it. Thank you so much.
What you do, Bobby, is go to Amazon.com and get my book. Then you'll have it right there at your fingertips.
Chronic pain gone 90 days. Why not chronic pain gone in 90 days? You left the in out of there.
Yeah, I wanted as few words as possible.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Less is more. Chronic pain gone 90 days. Dr. Twogood, thank you so much for being on the Bobby Pickles podcast. I really appreciate it. Thanks,
you, Bobby.
Have a great day, okay? Bye-bye. Okay, kids, I think we learned something today. We learned that our food pyramid is the main culprit for our chronic pain. And to fix it, we need to stop eating dairy, pasta, canned soup, but hot sauce is perfectly okay. Plus, it's delicious. Just a final rundown. Stay away from the casein, caseinate, MSG, hydrolyzed protein, natural flavors, protein isolate, processed foods, anything with a label on it. No more deli meats, bye-bye bologna, and gluten sucks too. Buy Dr. Daniel Twogood's new book. It's an easy read and it will get you healthy because we all know somebody with chronic pain, and this could be one hell of a stocking stuffer. Chronic pain gone 90 days. For the Bobby Pickles podcast in New York City, I'm Bobby Pickles.